Grace, you are up next. Would you like to pull it up yourself, Grace? Or if you want me to do it, just let me know.
Sorry, I think I can do it. You
can do
can, if I can share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead. You can share
Okay.
your screen.
Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Can you see it?
Yes, it just popped up, and if you want to put it in, play the slideshow mode.
Actually, I have too many slides for 10 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to ad lib and not do all the slides, if that's okay.
Sure, of course.
And I apologize in advance. I have no interesting video. But anyway, I'm passionate about this topic. So, all right, shall we start?
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
My presentation is a very, 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 very brief introduction into what exactly the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States is. I have to confess that I have been blissfully unaware of who's in charge of industry regulation, who works with the US government and acts as the homeopathic industry's representative. But since doing very brief research, I've come to understand the importance and crucial role, and more key, the relevance today to us as lay homeopaths or about to be homeopaths of how homeopathic drugs are regulated in the United States. First off, some quick terminology. What exactly is a pharmacopoeia? It means it's how to make a drug. It's like a cookbook for drugs, how to make a drug. And so a homeopathic pharmacopoeia is basically a cookbook, a compilation of standards. Sorry, let me just, of homeopathic drugs. And another important word that I'll be discussing is what is a monograph? That is the manufacturing directions and specifications for each drug, not just homeopathic, allopathic drugs also have to submit monographs, but that's an important word. Yes, there were prior US pharmacopoeias. I'm not going to go into them because I don't have time. But what I do want to talk about is the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia Convention of the United States, which was created in 1980. It's the organization which publishes and sells the pharmacopoeia and represents homeopathy to the FDA. It acts as the intermediary between the homeopathic manufacturing industry and the government. A very quick view of who the HPCUS is as far as structure. They have a board of directors. I only want to point out two things in this slide, and that is I found out that there are no lay homeopaths on this board. They are all medical doctors / homeopaths. Maybe that will change someday. And they only have two paid employees. One is the editor and one is the senior scientist. Otherwise, everyone is a volunteer, which is important, as you'll hear. I just wanted to quickly show you, I spoke about what a monograph is, but how a potential new homeopathic drug is added and approved for publication into the HPUS is through this system where a monograph sponsor, it's basically a company that produces homeopathic drugs, submits a monograph and they turn it into the editor. And the editor is in charge of reviewing it and funneling it off into these two review committees, the monograph review committee and the pharmacopoeia revision committee. After that, there's time for public commentary. And once they collect all public comments, it then goes to the board of directors for even more reviewing, and they decide whether or not it is going to be approved or rejected. Currently, actually, there are only 2 monographs under consideration because it's an expensive process. Imagining, when a new drug is submitted to the FDA for approval, it's expensive. So the length of approval, the time also varies. A complicated case can require several back and forths with the homeopathic drug manufacturing company. They might have to do reprovings, et cetera. And that could take a couple years if it's a complicated drug. But typically it's actually about 4 to 6 months if it's not anything too complicated. Okay. One very important key piece of legislation that impacted homeopathic drugs, how they were treated in the US, is in 1938, the FDA was created basically by the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. This was introduced, it was a bill sponsored by Dr. Royal Copeland, who was actually a homeopath and a politician. He was a senator from New York. He sponsored this bill and cleverly added a provision to the law recognizing the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia. So in effect, in the United States, there are 2 pharmacopoeia official compendiums. One is the Allopathic United States Pharmacopoeia, and the other is the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States. And what this act did is it recognized homeopathic remedies as official drug products in the US. From 1938 to 2017, the FDA appropriately treated homeopathic drugs and allopathic drugs as unique and separate areas of regulation. They're completely different. So that's how they were treated. However, in 2017, the FDA issued a draft guidance, which basically said that, sorry, wrong one. Yeah, I'm on the right one. That they were now changing how they regulate homeopathic drugs. And they were now switching to what they called a risk-based approach. And this was actually in response to several complaints they got from supposed purported homeopathic remedies that were reported as having safety concerns. And I don't have time to go through all of them, but nor do I know all of them, but belladonna was one that said to have, people were having severe reactions to belladonna, toxic reactions, and it's controversial. It's a controversial drug. But the important thing about this draft guidance in 2017 was that it threefold. Number one, it disregarded the distinction that was made by law that there's a difference between homeopathic and allopathic drugs. Second, it did not distinguish between products that were actually produced meeting homeopathic standards and those products that might be adulterated, misbranded, and improperly labeled as homeopathic. And third, and more key, all homeopathic products labeled homeopathic were now going to be treated as unapproved new drugs. unapproved new drugs. So that is how the FDA sees homeopathic products to this day. And that affects you as a homeopath. How will you prescribe? So what is the HPCUS's response to this? Basically, it's a back and forth process with the FDA. You know, a major issue is the uniqueness of how homeopathic medicines are produced. Namely, and we all learned this in homeopathic school, the ultra high dilutions. It's very challenging from a technical point of view. It's not easily comprehensible by the non-homeopathic world, i.e. the FDA. There are challenges and problems of fitting homeopathic manufacturing into the FDA's idea of what that should be. And unfortunately, there's just no science at this point to detect ultra dilute substances. There is ongoing research, but nothing enough to prove. Oh, that was it.
Grace, we could sit and listen to you for the next hour. This was such an interesting research study. Really well done. Congratulations. That was really great. And I know it was hard to like truncate it into 10 minutes. Does anyone have any quick questions for Grace?
Is there ways that we can help? Because it feels like there's...
Yes, alas, that was my final slide. There is ways, so I can share that with you. Homeopathy on the Hill is a big one. And the HPCUS actually has a new membership for us homeopaths, which if we can all be involved in it, it matters to us as homeopaths.
Absolutely.
Grace, do you want to put that in the chat for everybody? So also, I just want to mention that if you guys are members of either NASH, the North American Society of Homeopaths, or NCH, the National Center for Homeopathy, once you get on their mailing list, you get to hear about all these different bills. They send you information. You can go online and you can sign on different types of petitions that, you know, that come up. So it's a good way to be involved and know about those things. And so needed. And maybe, Grace, you might be one of those people that might get involved eventually.
I very well might be.
I can see you, Grace, as the first lay homeopath on that board. I know it's going to be you.
Me too. When I heard you say that, I'm like, you know, this could be Grace. Thank you so much, Grace. Let's give Grace a big round of applause and a congratulations.
It's okay, Grace.